Hey everyone, I'm Leslie. Welcome to my channel. Today I've got two projects, both of them using frame molds. On this first project, I'm using IOD's Vintage Brooches mold. You can use this with resin, clay. Today I chose to use resin. I got those poured and let them dry. I'm also going to be using Redesign's Easter stamp. I had bought this last year and never really used it. And I believe they are just so cute. So we're going to give this a try. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be using my Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster. And I'm going to give just the center 2 coats. That will be a good base for our stamps. While that was drying, I picked out a few colors that I thought would be perfect for the frames. I'm going to paint each frame, being careful around the edges where I'll do the stamping. For the first frame I'm doing here, I chose the color Moss. It's by Waverly. It's just a chalk paint I get at Walmart. This little frame here has leaves and vines on it, so I thought the moss green would be perfect for this one. Next, I'm going to be using Waverly in the color Ballet Slipper. This little brooch had a bow at the top of it, so I figured the pink would be pretty for that. For the next 2 brooches, I had bought these 2 little samples of fusion paint because I wanted to give them a try, and I really love their paint. The first color there is called Champness, and the second color I'll be using is called French Eggshell. Beautiful, beautiful colors. I keep looking at my hands because I don't want to get paint on the center of my brooches, so I'm trying to keep my hands clean, y'all. But anyway, I found this metallic paint in the color Pure Gold at Walmart. It's just a folk art paint, and it's a beautiful color. So one of my brooches, I want it to be gold. This is my first time to use this stamp, so I'm going to take my hand sander and take a second here and scuff it up a little bit. Now I'm just looking at my options and deciding which stamp I want to use on the brooches. And I'll be using my IOD ink in the color black. And whatever part I don't want on the brooch, I'm just going to take a wet wipe and wipe back the ink I don't want. I'm loving the way these are turning out. This is such a fun project. This was probably about 1:30 at night. I couldn't sleep, so there I am playing. After giving that ink a little bit of time to dry, I'm now using Pentart's Classic Crackle. Now, I did not put a sealer on top of this, and I caught myself when I was scared the ink was going to run. I made sure they were good and dry, and then I just went ahead and continued. I didn't get as much crackle, but I got enough, and I was real happy with the way it turned out. Oh, I know what happened here. Yeah, I started putting, it is, let's see, let me get my jar. Paint Couture Luxe Metallic Paint in the color bronze. I had started adding it to my brooches, and I realized I didn't put my camera on. So here I'm just kind of dry brushing, adding a little bit of the shimmer. And I'm also now going to be adding the Classic Crackle, the part 2. Once the Classic Crackle was completely dry, I took my Paint Couture in the color light brown sugar, and I'm going to antique it, and I'm going to use a little brush to kind of scrub it around on the face there and get it into all the little cracks. I'll just be using a wet wipe to wipe back as much as I want. If you take too much off, you can always add some more. Now these little brooches are ready to do or decorate however you want. These would be perfect. You could drill a hole in them, put a little ribbon, hang them on a little Easter tree or pegboard. You could put them in a tier tray, put them on a wreath. So many things you could do with these. I love them. Stick around. The next project is my absolute favorite. Project number 2. I'll be using Redesign's LYSANDRA mold. The LYSANDRA mold is supposed to be a retired mold, but I believe you can still find it on Etsy. Just do a Google or Etsy search. These images I'm using here for this project, I've got these from Ruby and Pearl on Etsy. And this is from the, let's see, it's the vintage printable collection called La Flora. I'll be sure and link that in the description. I printed these out on just regular copy paper, and I used the wallet size setting. And I went ahead and printed 9 of each because I will definitely be using more of these. I didn't want to waste a whole sheet of paper for one image. Here I'm going to be cutting and fitting my images into the frames, and I'll be using Mod Podge as my decoupage medium. You can use an X-Acto knife just to trim off any little pieces that maybe go up on the side. On here, I'm going to be taking my color Little Black Dress. It's a DIY paint, and the frame, I'm going to paint it gold, so I'm going to use black as a background because that helps that gold pop, and you don't have to put as many coats. My DIY paint was getting to the bottom, and it was starting to dry out, so I added water to it before I painted the back of this, which will be a good example of how you can see the difference between painting the gold on a black background versus a white. The white took about 4 coats. I'm going to be using Waverly in the color Ballet Slipper for the outline, the frame of my little images. It just matched perfectly to the pink roses. And of course, I'm going to be adding Pentart's Classic Crackle. I love the look of it. It just ages stuff beautifully. So here, before I go any further, I'm going to go ahead and add the Classic Crackle, the step 1, because I need this to have plenty of time to dry. While step 1 crackle is drying, I'm going to take Paint Couture Luxe Metallic Paint in the color bronze. And this little frame here, I'm going to paint solid gold. And you can see the back how it's going to take 4 coats. That's what I was talking about earlier. And then on the little rose frames, I'm only going to be painting the details at the top. I want it to have kind of an old gilded look, old world charm. Once the gold paint was dry and I knew step 1 crackle was completely dry, I'm going to apply step 2 of the crackle and give this plenty of time to dry. I also use my heat gun on it to help force crackle. The last step on this project is I'll be using my Paint Couture, but this time the color Van Dyke Brown. It's a little bit darker. I wanted this to have an old world charm, so I wanted the crackling to be a little bit darker, a little bit aged. And here we are at the end of this video. These were two projects I absolutely love doing and relaxing. So many uses for these. Magnets on the back for your fridge. Ribbons, tie a ribbon in the top. Glue them to a wreath, to a basket. So many uses. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. And please consider hitting that subscribe button, and liking my video to help my channel grow. Thank you again, everyone. Have a blessed weekend coming up.